Welcome to War Movie Theatre, the safe space for people who know their Panzer III from their T-34. After our last episode, our podcast was overrun by the commies and we were forced to go and hide in the mountains. But now we're coming back to take our revenge. That's right, we're watching a film best thought of as Apocalypse Now, directed by John Hughes. It's early 80s teen-exploitation, ultra-violent resistance classic, Red Dawn. I'm Rob Hutton, and I've found myself leading a ragtag gang of surprisingly hot high school kids fighting back against the Russians who have mysteriously occupied my town. Reluctantly joining me in my hideout is a young man who seemed soft until he got his first taste of blood in the woods. Now he's ready to kill his classmates. Hello, Duncan Weldon.
Hello, Rob.
And ejecting from his fighter plane with frankly improbable boasts about his prowess is opinion poll maestro and war movie nut, Joe Twyman. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Rob. Hello, Duncan.
Red Dawn. Duncan, had you seen it before?
Well, okay, I had seen it before. I don't think I'd seen it for about 20-odd years. I last saw it in the early 2000s. I watched it again this week, and what a watch that was.
Joe, when I phoned you about this, you said, "Oh yes, Red Dawn. I've got it."
I have indeed got it. I dug out the DVD, which I should stress is a Region 1 US DVD. I'm not even sure if it was ever released in this country. It is a weird one. I was thinking about this last night. I definitely saw it during the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, I'm too young to have seen it at the cinema. But it was, my sense is it was the kind of film that you perhaps would have got out from the video store that was also the grocery store, that was also the garage, that was also the chemist, if there was nothing else available. But it, at the same time, I mean, my parents, who weren't particularly censorious about such things, would probably not have let me watch it. But all of that is kind of irrelevant, because the time that I'm certain I saw it all the way through for the first time was actually in Baghdad on an American US Army base, and I don't know if you've ever watched films with Americans, but sometimes they do treat it very much as a participatory sport. I mean, it was the sheet nailed to the wall and projected onto that. If you can imagine a group of American soldiers really, really getting into this, that was
I can imagine that.
Yeah, that was my first experience all the way through. So yeah, I have fond but complicated memories of this film.
So, was this before or after? Given you watched it in Iraq with American soldiers, was this before or after they used terms from the film as code words during the hunt for Saddam?
It was after. So I was in Baghdad from 2007 to 2010. So this was around the time of the surge, and we'll perhaps talk about the surge later when it comes to the validity of urban warfare and the kind of ratio of soldiers to civilians that you need in order to subdue an urban area. But yes, it was very much after Saddam had been caught, and Red Dawn was on everyone's lips.
So I think, for me, it was one of those films that your older sister's boyfriend talked to you about, and that you never. I mean, I now you say it, I do know that it was in fact in the video shop, and that I never rented it because I just thought it looked a bit much even for me. And to be honest, older sister's boyfriend's description of it also did make it sound a bit much. I should say we're watching it because I wonder if it's ever been released in the UK. It has been released. There's a 4K version of it, and we're very grateful to Altitude for sending us copies. And this is probably the moment to say that this show doesn't currently have a sponsor, and if you are releasing 4K war movies, get in touch, because we'll watch them for you. So this is the first time I watched it. It's one of those ones it's been in your mind. I think I'd seen the 2012 remake with Chris
Hemsworth.
Yes, Thor. So I think about. I know that I have watched that from beginning to end, and I could not tell you anything about it. It's just completely gone from my mind. It's sort of, so it's released in 1984. Let's talk. I mean, let's talk about how it comes into being.
Yeah, because I have many questions about this.
It's written by Kevin Reynolds. Have you heard of Kevin Reynolds?
a director of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the
definitive.
That's
the
film.
thing you've seen.
I mean, when I think of Kevin Reynolds, I immediately think of that, rather than Waterworld, of course.
I mean, basically, I was looking down his list, and I thought maybe he just got lucky with Robin Hood, because there's not a lot of there's not a body of work. Sorry, Kevin. It's bought by MGM. This is the weirdest thing I discovered. They've got General Alexander Haig on their board, and he's really keen. He's really keen to get into making movies, and specifically, he's really keen to get into making this movie. So the reason that it actually looks like quite a lot of money is spent on it is because this was one of these sort of what in newspapers we would call an editor's must. Somebody very senior is very keen on this, and that's really all you need to know about this. So it has to be made at all costs, and they give it to a director called John Milius,
who wrote Apocalypse Now,
and Dirty Harry, and who is, I don't think he's well known now, is he?
Well, I mean, I know him. I'm not a big fan of Red Dawn, but I am a massive fan of The Big Lebowski, as you can maybe tell from my T-shirt. And he was the inspiration for the character of Walter, the John Goodman character in the in The Big Lebowski. And once you understand that, suddenly lots of things make sense. He's a fascinating character. I mean, not only did he write Go Ahead, Make My Day, Apocalypse Now, he was also a founder of the UFC. The Ultimate Fighting Championships, for those not familiar with mixed martial arts, and was one of the people credited with inventing the octagon in that contest. So, I mean, it really is a fascinating story. Granite. The character of Walter also is famous for his line in The Big Lebowski, "You're entering a world of pain," and I think that really that could be the tagline for this film. Red Dawn, you're entering a world of pain. So this guy is not quite the Hollywood liberal that perhaps some people associate with that area now.
The 4K thing that I watched has lots and lots of extras and interviews with him. And actually, the funny thing was I was sitting there looking at him thinking, he really does remind me of someone. And then I saw The Big Lebowski and apparently, he used to go whenever he did an interview with a journalist. He'd sit there with a loaded 9mm on the desk, just to sort of to intimidate them. His fee for the film is $1.25 million plus the gun of his choice.
Do we know what the gun of his choice?
I haven't been able to find out. But he is legitimately, even if people who haven't seen Red Dawn, he has written some of the most famous lines in Hollywood. So the "Do You Feel Lucky, Punk?" "Charlie Don't Surf," "I Love the Smell of Napalm in the Morning." He's a big mate of George Lucas. My single favourite fact about Milius is before this he directs another bit of a cult classic surfing film called Big Wednesday, and he gives George Lucas a percentage on Big Wednesday, and in return George Lucas gives him a percentage on Star Wars. Would you like to guess who did better out of that?
He also did Conan, is that right?
Yes,
at least one of the Conans.
He does. I think he certainly directs Conan. So he's good at sort of relentless, obsessive levels of violence. Again, I don't know whether Conan it's sort of become a classic, and
it's not very good. I rewatched it about 3-4 years ago. It is not very good.
I mean, I would say that Conan was on that sort of list of sort of forbidden films that you watched around a friend's house furtively in the 80s, in the same as sort of Kickboxer or Terminator, for instance. I don't think this is in the same category. This wasn't the sort of thing that was discussed in hushed whispers at school. This just wasn't discussed at all. I mean, if you look at the films that came out in '84, there's some. I mean, you got Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I mean, some Karate Kid, some big films. And I'd be amazed if this made it into the sort of top 20 or 30 films in the UK for that year.
Particularly, so this is in the US. This is the first film with a PG-13 rating, which was actually sort of brought in because of Gremlins and Temple of Doom, but in the UK, it does not get a PG. It certainly does not get a PG rating. It's a 15. It was rated 15 on release and remains a 15.
I'm surprised it was a 15 on release.
Well, there's not much. It's a weird sort of. It's kind of slightly A-team violence. You know what I mean? You see a lot of people shooting the guns. this is obviously the skill of the director. You think you've seen more than you've seen. Like I having watched it last week, I watched it again quickly this morning just to sort of to go through various scenes, and I thought actually it's funny. This is, there's a lot of shooting, but quite a lot of the dying is slightly distant. So I guess maybe they took that view, but.
I imagine that may be the last time we use the expression "that's the skill of the director" in this episode.
The other thing about this film is it right. So it's 1984.
I mean, the other thing, the context, and we spoke about other movies that came out in the sort of early mid 80s. The comparison I'd go for was Rambo. This is like Rambo, but with teenagers.
Well, interestingly, Rambo, particularly Part 2, certainly not Part 1, and definitely not Part 3, was one of the other films that would be watched in a non-ironic, enjoyed way on the base in Baghdad. And so you have Rambo, you have Team America World Police as a sing-along, and you have Red Dawn, and these were very much the canon, if you like.
Can I shock you? Ronald Reagan really liked it.
I mean, I would say the comparison was probably with War Games as well, which is a film that I really like, because I was thinking about the context of this. You've got the Able Archer NATO exercises in 1983, which almost bring us to war. You've got the shooting down by Russia of the Korean airline in 83, I want to say.
That's certainly happened before this. Yes.
Yeah. And again, I think this is a reflection of a genuine belief in the United States that this was something possible. In the UK, we get Threads, and in the US, War Games and Red Dawn. There's a brilliant filmmaker called Lucy Walker who has made a documentary called Countdown to Zero, which talks about all of the times that we have come really very close to nuclear annihilation, not just in the 80s, but later on, simply and was saved simply by luck more than judgment. And I think this is a real reflection of that kind of paranoia, but also a reflection of what, on occasions, was actually quite close to reality.
Yes, it's a weird thing, because I am old enough to remember sort of 80s nuclear anxiety. I think I was even in a school play where we improvised a sort of Thread-style post-nuclear apocalypse at aged about 10.
The year after it was Bugsy Malone, but certainly that 1 year.
It's Oliver. It was Oliver the year after. That was obviously sort of what was in people's minds. War Games was big in my mind, 84, 85, but that's it happening by mistake, whereas this is more gung-ho. Well, it sort of takes us, in fact, quite neatly, to the after-action report. Quick ad there on the cable car. What do you want to be called in for? Well, I don't know that I necessarily want to be called in for the opening scroll, but I definitely want to talk about the opening scroll. Because the setup of this film, which is sort of interesting in 1984, is really interesting in 2025. So I'm just going to read it. Soviet Union suffers worst wheat harvest in 55 years. Labor and food riots in Poland. Soviet troops invade. Cuba and Nicaragua reach troop strength goals of 500,000. El Salvador and Honduras fall. Green Party gains control of West German Parliament, demands withdrawal of nuclear weapons from European soil. Mexico plunged into revolution. NATO dissolves. United States stands alone. I've got to say, when NATO dissolves popped up on the screen last Friday night, half right. You got it half right, lads.
Yeah, I think you need to be called. You may as well be called in for the scroll, because it starts pretty quickly. The invasion begins within 5 minutes. The first innocent civilians are gunned down in under 6 minutes. You have rocket-propelled grenades being indiscriminately fired into a school, again, within the first few minutes. And
you sort of go back to that scroll, and I always sort of think there's two ways films like this can get, if you're doing a hypothetical scenario rather than something based in history, there's two ways you can go. You can either have a lot of really detailed world building about how you've ended up in this situation, or you can just ignore that and just have explosions and gunfire. And what I think doesn't quite work is really implausible world building. I mean, just step back for a second, right? Why would this film be set in Colorado? If you could set this film anywhere about an invasion of the United States by the Russians and their massive Latin American allies, why do you pick Colorado?
And even if you're going to do Colorado, I mean, there are more strategically important places to secure than a town that, as we see in the opening scenes, has really nothing happening in it.
It's sort of
you're going to devote a large number, and we'll come on to this when we talk about the dynamics of urban warfare. You're going to be committing a large number of troops to secure a town of really no obvious strategic importance in Colorado, so that you can come up and occupy the flyover states. I mean, successive US presidents have not cared about the flyover states. The idea that
you could have just said this in Texas.
Would.
You could have said in Texas. Nothing would. You could have said in Texas near the Mexican border. It would be fine.
It is right. So, I mean, yes. I'm sorry.
This is like making a film about a German invasion of Britain in World War II set in Derbyshire. It makes zero sense.
As a Derby County supporter, I take that personally, but Nottinghamshire maybe.